are very glad to have another very exciting guest today. And this is Chris Multop. And so, everyone, please meet Chris.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, you survived the holidays, and I know your family was sick too.
Yeah,
Your little kids
we
and
survived.
everything.
We got the flu bug, and
Yeah.
it hit us pretty good. I actually somehow got both types of flu, which
Oh
is kind of
no! Talking about bad
terrible.
luck, right?
Yeah, that was pretty bad luck. But we're all well now, just about. So yeah,
Well, good.
yeah. I think that at one point my
Yeah.
daughter had one type of flu, strep, and pink eye,
Oh no!
all on the same day.
Oh my gosh! And she's not
And
how old
that
is
was
she?
Christmas Eve. So
Oh no!
yeah.
I know what happened for your Christmas. You were all getting well.
Yeah. We spent the Christmas all on the couch
Yeah.
and takeout, and yeah, it was not the normal Christmas, but
And that trip to the mountains that you and I had talked about before had to be put on the side till a later date.
we actually went.
Yeah.
We decided to
Oh,
go
okay.
because
Yeah.
we were getting better, and we were
Oh,
not
good,
canceling another
good.
thing.
Yeah.
We just couldn't do it. We'd canceled all of Christmas, and we were like, nope, we're not canceling
right.
a single thing further. We went to the mountains, which was probably not the best idea, but we had fun. So, when you're
Well, you can be sick in the
when
mountains
you're
just as easy as you
yeah,
can be
when you're
back
in
here in
high
Houston,
altitude
right?
and hacking,
Yeah.
and it was a challenge, but
Yeah.
we had a lot of fun. We did went to Durango, did the Polar Express. The kids loved it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, that's such a fun train in Durango too. We've
Oh, yeah.
done that before too, and or even for any of you that want to go there. Also, we really aren't an advertisement show about travel, but Durango's train
We
is
try to go
wonderful.
almost every year. Yeah, the kids love it. So.
It's great. It's a nice trip through the mountains, even in the summer, of course, too. So, well, I'm glad you did get out because it's not fun being sick anytime,
No.
but especially during the holidays.
Yeah, it was terrible, but
Definitely. So
we survived. That's all that matters.
That's right. So, well, I have gotten to know Chris in the last couple of years, actually, and we've been able to text and talk on the phone and that type of thing. But Chris is an Emmy award-winning videographer, and he does all kinds of videographing. Is that, how do you say videographing? That's a long word. Does a lot of video taking. Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Sure, I think the proper term for, depending on what I'm doing,
Right.
typically I'm a producer shooter, so I produce and shoot content, whether it's for national TV or for
Okay.
local mom and pop restaurant down the road.
So a little bit of everything then.
little bit of
That's
everything,
great.
yeah.
Great. Because I know that you're not always in Alaska, thank goodness, or your family misses
Right.
you when you are.
Yeah.
So tell us about when it was you won your Emmy and what was that, what did you produce that made that happen?
Well, at that point, I was just a camera operator on a little show called Life Below Zero. It's on National Geographic Channel. I believe we had been nominated a couple times prior years,
Right.
and I had spent a whole year working hard on the show with a great group of guys that also worked probably harder than me, and we were lucky enough to be on a ballot to get nominated, and ultimately got the win and got to go up on stage, accept our awards, and it was great.
Wonderful. Well, what an awesome experience. And I know that's not taken lightly. So you obviously did a great job to be able to be, like you said, nominated and chosen
Sure.
both,
Sure, yeah. This
So,
past year, I was nominated again. Obviously not chosen, otherwise this would be a different conversation. But it was great because I was chosen as a producer versus a camera or as
Oh,
a cinematographer,
okay.
and
Okay.
So it gave me, I guess, a rare opportunity to be nominated in two different categories on the same show. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
So that might be, since you're producer now, that might be the next year, so we'll
Maybe. I'm sort of
maybe
winding
stay
down my
tuned, yeah.
Alaska.
Oh, are you?
I've been on that show or been a part of it since 2013, and
Oh,
the
okay.
show started shooting its first episode at the end of 2012.
Oh, okay.
So I was part of the first
Okay.
season and have somehow been a part of it through every season since. That's a long time to be away from family,
Yeah,
so
that is.
it is starting to wind down a bit and focusing more on being at home and creating great content from all the skills
Right.
that I've learned out there for people here.
And there may be, stay tuned, everyone. There may be a project that we're going to be working on together too here in the future.
That'd be great.
So we'll be telling you more about that down the road. So of course, the first thing that comes to my mind, and maybe our viewers also, is how in the world do you work for weeks and weeks and weeks, a month at below zero every day and every night, 24 hours a day?
Yeah, that's a challenge. You know, sometimes the weather has been quite unique in Alaska, especially over the last few years. Sometimes it's not that cold, or lately they've had some fairly warm winters. It's always cold. Don't There's no doubt about that. But
Right.
so it's kind of like Texas weather. You never know what you're going to get from one day or two to the next. It could be minus 40 one day, or it could be 10 above the next day, all in the same week.
Right.
It's definitely a challenging environment just from clothing. You spend often a lot of time getting dressed,
Right.
putting on layers,
Yes.
going out into the cold. And then if you have a place to get warm, then you want to take off layers. So there's a lot of time consumption, I guess, on just getting prepared for the day. Camera gear is an extreme challenge when it gets really cold. Batteries, people often say they die. They don't die, they just freeze.
Freeze. Right.
And when they freeze, they stop working. So we had spent a lot of time trying to find places to tuck batteries in on your
Right.
jacket and keep them close to your body warmth so that they stay warm. So when your battery on your camera dies or runs out.
So obviously you could probably just film a short amount at a time.
Sure,
then.
when it's extreme cold, minus
Yeah.
40, minus 30, minus 40, off the LCD screens on cameras start to freeze and what we call ghost. So you can't even really see focus anymore at that point. So you just kind of from experience get your camera set and hope that you
Kind of guesstimate that it's
yeah,
happening,
a
right?
bit, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of challenge, and with cameras, you've got a camera battery, you've got audio batteries. The talent has a microphone with audio batteries, so you've got all these different batteries, and one dies, and the whole
Right.
system is not working properly. So you have a lot to keep up with.
So probably you better just put yourself on slow and chill out because you're not going to.
Well, unless there's something going on that you gotta
go.
cover, something, if there's somebody on some ice and they start to have any sort of problems out there, then you've got to be covering it and you've got to,
Right.
follow the action, so to speak, because we're not making up TV. We truly are on this show,
Right.
following what these people do. And that can be fast paced. It can also be slow paced too.
Absolutely. Like you said, and you're just hoping that battery doesn't freeze then because you do need to.
Oh,
Because then
yeah.
if you do, you have to stop, warm it up again and so on. So now you say these people, so what was the gist of the whole program? Were you following,
So Life Below Zero is a show about Alaskans living on their own, typically off the grid in Alaska. Living through the harsh winters, how they survive. Simple tasks that you and I take for granted, like where does their water come from? You don't have running water at most of these places, and
Right.
if you do, it freezes during the winter. It's hard to keep stuff like that
Sure.
warm. So often once the rivers freeze over, sediment tends to drop, the water's clear, and you can drink it. So when that happens, how do you get that water? Well, sometimes you have to cut a hole through 3 feet of ice to get a bucket, and then haul said bucket however far away from that river is from your homestead. Simple stories like that, and the challenges that lay forth for these folks.
and are their homes actually like we think of as igloos?
Well, there's
And the
only
houses they are.
one native family on there. The rest of them, either cabins or yurts, But most of these people live in a sort of cabin-like environment, wood stoves. So there's lots of wood cutting, going
Right.
out and
Probably for
finding
a long
trees.
time, all year round,
Oh
probably
yeah, it
wood
never
cutting.
ends. Yeah, they don't get
Right.
that chance to stop. They've got to constantly keep up with it, and often they're behind. So they're always trying to get caught up.
Right.
So yeah.
And there's probably certain clothing that they wear there. I know, of course, you can buy it at stores here, but the
Sure.
clothing there, do they go to the city and buy clothes, or they still do the old-fashioned way with the animal skins and
I mean,
things? I'm
some
trying to
do.
envision what
Some
as our
do. You
viewers
know,
are.
a
Yeah.
lot of it's progressed towards
Yeah.
modern times, but a lot of them do wear furs, like fur mittens, fur hats. They're just warmer. Um, as far as their clothing, I mean, they wear parkas and they wear underlayers, and just like we would out there. Their stuff might be a little older and used because we're on the show,
Right.
and so we're new to the
Right.
game, I guess.
Right.
Whereas they've been doing it for a long time, and they know what to wear. But yeah, I mean, they wear similar type things.
And so how many people do you think, is there like a population that lives like that now still in, I guess it depends on what part of Alaska too. I know there's all different areas of
Yeah, I don't
Alaska
remember
too.
exactly what the population of Alaska is. Maybe it's 500,000, maybe it's more.
Yeah.
A big chunk of those are in the
Cities.
cities, Anchorage and
Right.
Fairbanks.
Right.
And then there's obviously a lot of smaller cities, a lot of a lot of tribes and things like that. Little different villages is that's the
There's
term I'm looking for. A
right.
lot of villages that have a lot of native folks that live together. So I don't know what the population would be, but there's a fair amount of people
Yeah.
that live off the grid in Alaska, and
Right.
they
Yeah, that's
they
why I was
do.
curious, the ones that are off the grid,
Yeah.
about what
Well, a lot of
population
Alaska
that would
is off the
be.
grid, really.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
true
minus
too.
the cities, because there's just not that sort of
Yeah, I
infrastructure.
have
It's too
actually some
big.
good friends in Ketchikan that I've kept track with. We've kept in touch over the years. The only way you get there is by boat or plane.
Yeah.
And so, but they have a regular town
Sure.
and everything, and schools, and because she was a teacher,
Right.
a retired teacher now, and so on. But I had attended a part of our organization I have with our Advocates of Healthy Minds. And again, if anyone wants to go to our website, it's advocatesofhealthyminds.org, so you know what we do. And that's the project that we'll be doing together has something to do with that too, with Chris. But I attended a mental health first aid training class, and some of the people there were from Alaska, and one is a doctor that actually goes out to see his patients from Fairbanks, and it's all the remote locations in Alaska that he does go to.
Well, there's a lot of that
You
up there. I
know.
mean, because there's so many remote. I mean, think about
Right.
Texas. Texas is a huge state.
Yes.
Alaska's
Right.
more than twice the size of Texas.
Wow. That's hard
It's
to
giant.
imagine.
So a short drive for them is 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, right.
If you can drive, there's a lot of
Yeah,
folks that just
yeah.
fly. I mean, there's so many small airplanes in the air up
bet.
there.
A lot of people
That's-
have pilots'
That's the
license
only way to
like that,
travel.
huh? Yeah, and
So,
get there quickly.
We'll get there
Right,
all.
you get there, yeah, you get there at all like Ketchikan.
Yeah.
Exactly. I haven't asked in a long time, but I really don't think there are roads.
Right.
Just because of the terrain and the forests, and like I said, it's huge
And
too,
then depending on the
infrastructure.
time of year,
Oh, yeah?
helicopter only. So, and we've had to do that quite a bit on the show. So,
And see, I was born and raised in Wyoming, and so similar. I remember one time I did get to school because my father had a pickup truck, a four-wheel drive pickup truck. And so I think it was like minus 20 or something, 20, 30 below. And that is cold. That's
That's cold.
very cold. If you, for some reason, you get stalled somewhere or something happens with your vehicle, you could actually die if you don't have the
Absolutely.
proper food and water and things like that. And people don't understand that a lot of times. And
you just
but
got
I
to stay
do-
moving.
Exactly.
Staying moving is the way to
Exact-
stay
yeah.
warm.
And see, that being at below zero for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So when you do the filming, is most of your transportation by dog sled or that type of thing?
Well,
Or
it
how
depends
does
on the
that
character we're
work?
with. Some is snow machine. There's a lot of snow machine. Depending on the time of year too. During the
Right.
summer, it could be If we're on the road system traveling somewhere, we could just have a rental car. But there's a lot of four-wheelers, there's a lot of snow machine, there's a lot of dog sledding. We don't typically drive dog sleds. We'll follow dog sled teams with a snow machine
Ah, okay.
because we have our own travel. We try to be self-contained completely so that we don't have to, be interacting other than, we're all friendly and everything, so we interact with with the cast members on the show, but we don't want them to be involved in our, we try to keep that separate. We consider ourselves the fourth wall. We're there to document and create a show.
Right.
So yeah, that's sort of how we travel, and a lot of plane traveling, a lot of helicopter traveling.
That'd be fun. I love to fly, so that would be
yeah.
very fun to
It
zip
it
here
is,
and there.
and depending on the weather, it isn't.
Yeah. There's probably some scary times
I
too,
think
I
the
bet.
first time
huh?
I flew in a helicopter, it was probably the smallest helicopter you can fly in. And I don't know that I would want to do that too many more times in my life.
Yeah, so that once or twice was a good experience, but that's okay, right?
Yeah, it was interesting for sure.
And plus I know a lot of the smaller helicopters too, they don't have too much room for, might be a suitcase or whatever, but your
Oh no, there was
gear,
no room for
your
any
camera
gear.
gear.
The way we haul
Yeah.
gear is they call them sling loads, or basically they put a tarp down that has rope attached to it, and you put all your gear on top of it, and then the rope attaches, and all the sides come up over it, and so they haul this big bag of
Okay,
gear
that goes
underneath the
with
helicopter,
you.
100
Oh.
feet below,
Right.
as you're flying through the
right.
air, and and
Okay.
you do that 10, 15 times for us to get into a location with all the cameras
Right.
and food and all that sort of stuff. So it can be timely. And
So did that part, they get close enough, they just kind of drop that off?
well,
so
they
can
lay it down, and
land,
somebody on the ground
stop,
unhooks
yeah.
it, and then they go back for
okay.
the next load,
Like
and
that kind of thing.
you can only
Okay.
do a few hundred pounds at a
Right.
time. So,
Right. And that's probably all those smaller helicopters could handle.
yeah,
too.
and if you can imagine, we're a film crew, so we have
Right.
at least 20 large Pelican cases full of just camera gear, and almost the same of coolers and totes full of food for us to
Right.
survive, plus
Right.
tents if we need tents, and fuel, lots of fuel for our snow machines. It's a lot.
Right.
It takes a
of
lot
different
in and out,
things,
and we do it
yeah.
very efficiently. And we do it for usually 3 week at a time spurts, and we get in one day, and we get out in one day.
That's amazing. And just all the things you're thinking of. My mind's going crazy with all the things you do have to do and the timing and
The logistics
all of
behind it,
that.
the logistics
Oh,
team that
it's
we have, like
amazing.
what they do to pull off every shoot is, they're the ones
Wow,
probably who should win an
right.
Emmy. I wish they had a category for it because of what they do. It's just amazing.
Oh, yeah, just to make it all happen so that you can actually
Permits and
shoot.
just having everything,
Just
just
there's probably national
so much work.
forests and all kinds of things, the permits just to go into the
Well,
forest to shoot.
there's
and
state land, there's just all kinds of things to deal with. Yeah.
Right. So how did you get into cameras and all of that? Because obviously you're an expert in it.
Well,
So you're-
I guess I'm an expert. Maybe I just have gotten lucky along the way. I went to school. I graduated Sam Houston in their radio television program. I left there and started as a studio camera guy at Channel 11. Did that for a couple years and moved up into a commercial shooter, producer, special programs like documentaries for Channel 11, local stuff.
Right.
And I did that for almost 10 years. And then,
Okay.
at some point you grow, you need to grow bigger than where you are at. And the opportunity had already sort of started with Life Below Zero. I had gone out on a couple of trips while I was still working there, and it just, it was like I could do this
Right.
more often. And it was before we had kids,
Right,
and so
right,
it was
right.
a little easier. And then as soon as I started it, we had our first kid, so it was like, okay, this might become a challenge. And then we had our
Right, yeah.
second, and now we're like, okay, we've got two young kids who really need daddy home as well as my wife. And
Right.
to be honest, I need to be there
Right.
with them
Absolutely.
just as bad as they need me
Right.
there. So
Yeah, those cold, cold nights in those tents may not just be the perfect life every night, right?
You
For a
know,
while.
it's funny that when you're out in it, you
Mhm.
don't. Um, you're in it and you're
Mhm.
miserable a
Mhm.
lot of times,
Mhm.
and but
Mhm.
you're doing the job, and that can be exciting, but you don't
Right.
really think about the excitement or the adventure while you're there. A lot of
Mhm.
times it's just like, oh
Mhm.
man, it's so cold,
Right.
or all these
Right.
sort of things until
Mhm.
you leave. The
Mhm.
minute you get on that plane to go
Mhm.
home
Mhm.
and you're back in the world of reality, you're like, whoa, the
Yeah.
things I just did
Are amazing.
were things that
Yeah.
nobody gets to do
Mm-mm.
except for,
Mm-mm.
a
Mm-mm.
handful of our,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
coworkers.
Absolutely.
So it can be pretty
Mm-hmm.
amazing and exciting, but
Yeah.
it's often after the fact.
Right, right. And what an experience, like I said, that majority of the world will not ever have.
No, I
And
mean,
so
most
it's
people are not
interesting.
going to be on, the edge of the Yukon
Mm-hmm.
River during breakup
Mm-hmm.
season with,
Mm-hmm.
massive
Oh, yeah.
boulder sized chunks of ice staring down at
Mm-hmm.
you, that
Mm-hmm.
can move buildings
Mm-hmm.
and basically be a
Mm-hmm.
bulldozer. Um,
Right.
Nobody gets to do that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
To see those sort of
No.
things, to
And
be
I'm
able to.
sure the summers were beautiful too.
Well, summer's my
You
favorite time,
know,
despite
yeah. The
the
long
sun being
days.
out.
Yeah.
That's the only other challenge because, for
Right.
Alaskans during summer, it's time to go to work. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've got to
Mm-hmm.
work to
It's only
get
time
prepared
to
for winter.
maybe get your road together, get more wood stocked up,
There's so
maybe.
many things that you have to
Mm-hmm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
to prepare
Mm-hmm.
for winter and summer. So those days become 20-hour days because you've got the
Oh,
sunlight.
yeah.
And to be honest, the sunlight makes
Right.
you want to keep working. It makes you
Mm-hmm.
want to sleep
Mm-hmm.
less.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
there's been several times that do a lot of stuff on the river in Alaska because
Mm-hmm.
those are the
Mm-hmm.
roadways
Mm-hmm.
during the
Mm-hmm.
summer, during the winter,
Right.
whether you're driving on the rivers
Mm-hmm.
because they're
Mm-hmm.
frozen or
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
floating down them in a boat. They are the
Right.
highways during, in
Mm-hmm.
Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
So you spend a lot of time on them, either winter or summer, and
Mm-hmm.
you know during the summer, I've camped out on beaches in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
mile-wide
Mm-hmm.
rivers,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Nothing around you for miles,
Oh, and
not another
quiet. Maybe
person.
an
It is
eagle
as
or a
quiet.
hawk
Yeah,
going
just animal
over,
noises. Yeah.
and that's it. So, did you come across bears and things like
Come
that?
across
Do you ever
bears,
visit there?
lots of
Yeah.
moose, caribou,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
lynx. Lynx are my favorite. They're
Mm-hmm.
so hard
Mm-hmm.
to find. They're very.
Mm-hmm.
They keep to themselves, but when you come
Ah,
across one,
it's
that's
like,
a pretty,
wow, we
yeah,
found one
yeah,
finally,
yeah.
right?
Well, I mean, you can get them, and people
Yeah.
trap them and all that sort of thing, but
Right.
to come across one alive in the
Mm-hmm.
wild
Mm-hmm.
is kind of a nice
Mm-hmm.
thing to me personally. Um,
Right.
Moose are probably the scariest animal,
Mm-hmm.
as they
Mm-hmm. They
will
can be very
they can be
dangerous
very
also, especially if
dangerous.
they have a calf, of course.
Just like any
Talking
animal,
about them,
mama
mama's a
bear, and
tough one, yeah.
yeah, you don't want to mess with mama. So yeah, we've seen wolves from a distance. Wolves are never
Mhm,
anything to worry
mhm.
about,
Right.
despite the stigma, I guess,
Mhm,
attached to them.
mhm, mhm.
Bears and moose, and even bears, you act bigger than you are and talk to them,
Mm,
and they'll often
mhm,
run
mhm,
away.
mhm.
They're not going to
Right.
come. They may try, but
Mhm, mhm,
they'll back off
mhm,
ultimately.
mhm,
A moose might not
mhm.
back off though.
Right, right. They would just
They
sort of
just
charge,
charge.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so you want to stay away from that. Lots of bald eagles. Oh man, seeing a bald
Mhm.
eagle in the
That was
wild,
beautiful.
uh,
Mhm,
just nothing
mhm,
better.
mhm.
It's a special place for sure. It is very
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, there's not that many places in the world, it seems like, that are wild still. There's probably in
There
other
isn't.
countries and that type of thing, but
There isn't.
like you said there, and I know, bighorn sheep and things that people don't think, and the
Mhm.
flowers that grow so high in high
Mhm.
altitudes in places like Alaska or wherever are just amazing.
Mhm.
And like you said, you got to experience all
Oh
that,
yeah,
which is
berries, all the
exciting.
types of berries that are up there that
Hmm.
just grow
What was your
wild.
favorite berry?
Well, I mean,
Did
for
you
me,
eat the
I
berries?
love raspberries, and
Oh,
so
I do
and
too.
and to
My
be able to
favorites.
just be floating down a river and then stop off and just pick
Pick a few.
raspberries
Mm-hmm.
is pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. And they
Mm-hmm.
were good.
Talking about fresh berries. The
That's very
store says
fresh.
fresh. That's not fresh. What you
Mm-mm.
had was
Oh
fresh.
yeah, So yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. Did you eat a lot of fish while you were there
Well,
too?
that's the
That's the
staple.
mainstay,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
We've done so much fishing, and I say we, we filmed
Mm-hmm.
cast members fishing. We don't typically fish,
Mm-hmm.
but we eat a lot of fish,
Right.
and man,
Which
just
is
it's.
healthy. Fish,
Hmm.
raspberries. You were probably eating very healthily
Oh
while you were
yeah,
there too.
most people up there are pretty healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you have to. You work so hard
Yeah.
physically,
Right, because you get
chopping
the
wood.
exercise too, and you
Hmm.
eat healthy.
Right.
And it truly is for survival. If you don't have that wood stone to keep you warm during the winter, then
Yeah,
you
I
can't
mean,
survive.
really, things are much
Mm-hmm.
simpler up there if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. It's
Mm-hmm. I
you
bet.
you have your chores
Mm-hmm.
that you have to do to survive,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's truly definition of living off the land.
Rinse and repeat,
Yeah.
day after day,
Mm-hmm.
year after
Mm-hmm.
year.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have
Mm-hmm.
sort of all the
Mm-hmm.
other issues of life in the big city or the
Right.
suburbs and
Right.
that sort of things.
Mm-hmm.
Where's your
Mm-hmm.
kid going to go to preschool and
Yeah,
that sort of stuff?
exactly.
Up there,
Or
preschool
college or
is
whatever.
in
Yeah.
the backyard, and the backyard could be
Right.
a couple of hundred square miles. So,
Exactly. Talking about having a big backyard, right?
yeah, yeah, it's a much different life. But it's special, and I often feel like when I go up there, it's completely a different life that I live.
Mm-hmm. It's like you're two different
Especially
people in a way.
almost, yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when
Mm-hmm.
once you go out to a location because you're there and you're just there for a few
Right.
weeks, and then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden it's
Mm-hmm.
over, and in a whirlwind you're back on a plane and back home. There's
Mm-hmm.
no like
Mm-hmm.
gradual period to get out of it. It's just boom,
Right. Right.
we're done. We're getting on a
Right.
plane,
Yeah.
and the next day you're home, or 2 days. It takes a couple days
Yeah.
because we have to fly so much.
Oh,
But
right.
usually it's one
Do you
day.
usually fly into Anchorage and then go
Yeah,
from there?
so we fly into
or-
Anchorage usually, and we have some meetings and figure out,
Mhm.
just logistics and production and stories and things like
Mhm,
that.
mhm,
And then we have a travel day to get out to the location and set
Sure.
things up.
Sure.
And the next day we start shooting.
Now, many times is it the same family or it's different families every time you go?
Well, the
up
show
there,
covers
or-
5 to 6 different of the same families.
Ah, I
And for
see.
me,
Okay.
I've covered mainly just 3. I've been to a couple other
mhm,
places, but for the most part, have stayed with the same folks.
And this is probably going to be a very dumb question, but is it all English, or I
Yeah.
know that the Eskimos have their own language too, but they
Sure, but
speak,
everybody
very
speaks
English.
English.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Makes it easier for you too.
Well, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it's
So we have just about a minute left.
wow.
So I know that went fast.
Sure did.
I've been so excited and waiting to hear about all this because I know we.
Well, I hope I didn't talk too much and didn't
No, it was
give you a chance to ask
perfect.
more questions.
I know there's more things I have in my head too to ask you about. Like I guess for one thing is how are the families chosen? How do they find these families way out there?
They do a lot of work casting and, going out and visiting with folks, looking. It's not just, I mean, a big part of it is them, but then,
Right.
logistically and, where we could set up and where we could live and all that sort of things for there. There's a lot of things, factors probably that go into it. I'm not real privy to that sort of stuff. But as far as casting, I mean, somebody that can have a strong presence on TV, somebody that's, doing it, living the life,
Right.
being authentic. I think that's pretty key. You don't want people that aren't authentic because it will
Right.
show.
Right.
And
I've
people that are
often-
start really sometimes even at the beginning of their growth because then they have a better story arc.
Right. Right.
So yeah, that
'Cause I've
definitely.
often thought about it when I did this mental health first aid training class, which is a week long, where I met the different people from Alaska and so on, too, and the doctor that I mentioned to you, that I've always wanted to do some type of a program what is the mental health like there, for the people in the outreach areas, like that. I'm sure that's their lifestyle, that's just how it works, but
I'm sure it
is
varies.
there-
I mean, but versus native, non-native, there's obviously some trends there. But I think for the most part, the sort of exercise and things that they continue, because of their lifestyle, I think that obviously
Right.
helps
really
tremendous
helps because
in
exercise
mental health.
always helps with mental
Sure,
health. So good.
absolutely.
So, well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on today. I've been really looking forward to this, and I hope our audience enjoyed it also.
I hope
Because, like you
so.
said, there's not too many people that have had this opportunity to go out and film, and actually an awarded an Emmy, won an Emmy for doing it also. So, thank you,
No,
and
thank you for having me on.
you bet, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next Thursday. Bye.